the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could I have the roll call?
Councilmember Boss?
Absent, excused.
Councilmember Simmel?
Here.
Councilmember Williams?
Present.
Councilmember Stroven?
Yes.
Councilmember Cerveny? Here. Mayor Thornton?
Here. Thank you. So this evening is a special meeting. We're here to discuss one topic, and it's regarding the interim subdivision agreement for the Riverside Estates development here in La Center. So we do have city staff here this evening. Eric Eisman, our contract city planner, is here this evening. Jeff Swanson, our community development director, is here. Tony Cooper, the city engineer, is here. And Matt Jenkins, our public works manager, is here as well. So with that being said, Mr. Swanson will be facilitating the meeting this evening, and he has a staff report he'll be presenting to council. Mr. Swanson.
Thank you, Mayor Thornton. Council, good evening. Jeff Swanson, Contract Community Development Director, representing the city. This evening, what you have before you is a staff report that I'll walk through that covers an interim subdivision agreement for ECM Riverside Estates project. You have on the dais a more updated version of this, and I'll just briefly note the changes. The property legal description items related to that within the agreement have been updated so that they're accurate. And there's been a minor change to language in section 13 that talks about inconsistencies. The last portion of that line reads, with respect to the La Center Municipal Code or the final order, the line reads, the substantive provisions of the La Center Municipal Code shall control. And that is the change from what was sent out. So as by way of background, ECM Riverside owns approximately 44.48 acres in an area of Northwest Incorporated La Center along Pacific Highway. On October 17th, 2017, the City of La Center Land Use Hearings Examiner approved the subdivision known as Riverside Estates, and this was affirmed on appeal and made final by the City Council on December 28, 2017, and it was subsequently amended by a post-decision review. ECM Riverside LLC proposes to develop the property consistent with the underlying MDR 16 zoning in 3 phases, comprised of 2 phases of 182 single-family units and a 3rd phase of between 62 and 155 attached multifamily units. The 4th and final phase will be designed and constructed at a later date. The city is working with ECM Riverside LLC to compose a statutory development agreement for council approval. Both the city and ECM Riverside recognize extenuating circumstances with respect to the development process which warrant execution of this proposed interim subdivision agreement. The proposed interim subdivision agreement will allow the city to approve civil engineering plans for phases 1, 2, and 3, and for ECM Riverside to proceed with construction of civil improvements prior to attaining site plan approval for the respective phases. All risks associated with this particular approval accrue to the applicant, ECM Riverside LLC, per the proposed interim subdivision agreement. So essentially, this allows the construction of the civil improvements while we negotiate the final site plan and development agreement, which will come before council for approval. Any questions that I can answer? Okay. Council, thank you for your attention. And
Thank you.
I'll
So-
turn it back to the mayor and council.
Thank you. So
Any discussion, council, questions, comments, concerns?
Is this a piece of property we had issues with the access not lining up right, or, I don't know, maybe it's a question for Tony. We have access with the property not lining up correctly with, the entrances were too close to each other or something? Or have I got this confused with another project?
Yeah, let me address that. I'm Tony Cooper, city engineer. Yes, that's the same project. And the applicant was required by the conditions to maintain the minimum requirement, which is 300 feet. I think they were probably a couple feet short, but that Washington Road was the road that was, the spacing was about 300 feet from the intersection where the access is going to be to Riverside. And then Highland Terrace is actually, which we just got plans, is aligning their intersection, their access is aligning with Washington Road. So the subdivision plans for phase, I think it's phase 3 or phase 2, is going to address that intersection, the intersection improvements and the widening of Washington Road to address the original conditions.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
you.
One question
Sure.
for you. With the additional development across the road coming before you now, will the runoff also be addressed?
Yes, for Highland Terrace, as a separate construction storm, or a separate stormwater
Okay.
pond.
And just
Yes.
the impact going down that slope will probably be somewhat of an issue with the Lewis River down below, and just,
Yes, they will, well, Highland Terrace, they were conditioned to do water quality and detention. And so they have a stormwater pond at the southeast corner of their site, just north of Pacific Highway, to address all of their
okay.
stormwater, separate from Riverside.
So there won't be any runoff issues that were similar to what we had on the development going out of town on John Storm?
On John Storm. Oh, well, those were construction stormwater issues. And both developers have to obtain construction stormwater permits from Department of Ecology, and they have to address all those items. And so that particular item at Sunrise Terrace or Heritage was actually construction stormwater problem. And problem with sediment getting into the storm system. And they had to address it. And both these developments will have to also there. In fact, Riverside is dealing with construction stormwater now during all the rain. So they do have.
It's always
facilities.
going to
Yeah.
be an issue around here with the clay soils.
Yes,
So-
nothing infiltrates, I know. So,
Okay, thanks.
Good.
you're welcome.
So, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's just the agreement, it's an interim agreement for the council to consider a motion this evening. I don't know if there's any other questions, or if the council wants to have some discussion, but
Yeah, furrowed brow.
I don't quite understand the rush.
the rush.
Why are we meeting on a Monday to discuss them moving ahead with something that adds risk? I don't get it.
Well,
And maybe I can explain the timing a little bit. So as part of this development process, this particular project has kind of a long history, and it predates the current applicant. And so some of those issues have propagated into what they're trying to deal with now. And they need to get civil sign-off so that they can schedule utilities like Northwest Natural to come out and hook up to the site and proceed with getting the lots ready to be sold. And so it's a timeliness issue. It's something that they have requested that we help them by approving the civil plans before we have the development agreement done. And they've accepted all the risk related to that action per this agreement.
And this couldn't have waited until the next city council meeting? What's the hurry?
No.
With John
Well,
on that now.
we're trying to hit some windows with like Northwest Natural, Clark Public Utilities. They're getting busy, and so having their folks available the longer this gets pushed out, the longer their schedule goes out. So we're trying to keep this project moving forward.
Well, I understand it's a very important matter to the city for the tax base revenue, but I just didn't see a rush to get here a week early, so.
Well, it's a scheduling issue. So what's happening is, as you well know, there's many developments happening all over the county. And Clark Public Utility and Northwest Natural Gas have limited crews and limited number of people to do the work for these developments. So the situation here, as I understand it, is that the developer needs to schedule, at least get this schedule, on the schedule for those utilities. And this interim agreement will allow the city engineer to sign off on the civils, which is the engineering that the Clark Public Utilities is requiring and Northwest Natural Gas requiring, so they can actually get this scheduled. So we don't anticipate any work starting with regard to utility hookups right away, but at least they're going to be on the schedule, and that's the urgency of it. We anticipate the development agreement coming forward very shortly, and with that will supersede this agreement, and of course that will be coming to the council for approval as well.
Right.
But this is just really to assist the developer to get these critical utilities scheduled, otherwise they're going to miss their window of opportunity.
Right. And the size and scale of this project, really, this is like the first domino that needs to fall out there for other projects to be able to proceed with the nature of the civil improvements that are being made in the area. They'll
So-
provide the capacity for those others to move forward.
Before finance here.
Yeah, but I can expect this to happen every time we have a development that needs an emergency. We're going to call a city council session on a Monday or Saturday or Friday, you know? That's the only part that I don't understand.
I understand your concern. This is, in the view of staff, professional staff, this is an exceptional circumstance.
Okay. And I'll take your professional view because I know you know what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You okay with that, John?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions?
Mayor, I move to approve the interim subdivision agreement with ECM Riverside LLC and authorize the mayor to execute all related contract documents.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the interim subdivision agreement with ECM Riverside LLC and authorize the mayor to execute all related contract documents. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, council. Thank you, staff, and appreciate everybody's hard work and efforts to get this done. So with that, we'll move forward. Everyone have a great evening. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Adios.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you again, everyone.
Gotta have fun, Liz.
Come on.
I'm not going to die of old age. I just wanted to know.
Me neither.
I make a lot of chicken breast